Good afternoon. Welcome to Sports Nothing But Sports with Kent Sterling. I am Kent Sterling. We are brought to you by the great people at Today's Dentistry. Today's Dentistry is just the best. I'm telling you, I've been a patient there the last 26 years. I know two things. I know sports and I know dental offices. And as a dental office, Dr. Mike O'Neill and the people at Today's Dentistry are absolutely the best, and all you need to do to become their next new patient is give them a call, 317-849-2933. Today, it's a Wednesday. It's a little bit rainy out, so we need to brighten our moods. How do we do that? We welcome Harry to the show to ask questions. He's going to bring the questions. I'm going to bring the answers. And that, for me, it doesn't get better than that on a Wednesday, especially when it's a little bit rainy outside. So let's bring Harry in. Harry, how you doing? Ask me some questions. Let's get going. 5 questions. Let's go. Boom, boom, boom. Let's make it quick. What do you say?
Put me under a little pressure there, Ganilrez. Boom, 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 you want. Boom, 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 you've got. All right, question number 1. Who are the Colts going to take at number 26 in tomorrow night's first round of the NFL Draft?
I have no earthly idea who they're going to take at 26. Anybody who says they do is completely out of their minds. I think the Tillery kid on Notre Dame looks terrific. He fits the jersey that I think Chris Ballard wants. He was very productive on the field, which I think Chris Ballard wants. And that includes his junior year and his senior year where he was just terrific. 6'6", about 300 pounds. He's a guy who's going to be trouble, especially when he learns how to use his hands. One of the raps on him is that he isn't as active with his hands as he's going to be when he gets to the NFL. He's going to be taught that. Tillery, I think it'd be a terrific pick for the Indianapolis Colts, but because I think that they're not going to take him. Nobody knows. He may be taken. He may be off the board by the time the Colts get to pick at 26. What do I think they're going to do? They could take an offensive lineman, and here's where I think that's kind of smart. All right, anybody predicting they're going to take an offensive lineman is Chris Ballard. In his remarks to the media earlier this week, he was talking about how, if they do take an offensive lineman, that doesn't necessarily mean that Anthony Costanzo is entering his last year with the Indianapolis Colts. It doesn't mean that they're drafting his replacement. The way I take that, and this is being a little bit cynical about Chris Ballard maybe, because Chris Ballard, if anything, is really, really honest. I can't remember a single time when he's even hedged on telling the truth. Now, he's not completely transparent. He's not an idiot. He's not going to tell us what he's going to do. He told us that there are 8 players they would be comfortable taking at 26. He didn't tell us which 8. You know what I mean? So there are different degrees of honesty. But Chris Ballard overall has been an honest guy. And so thinking that he's trying to control the narrative about Costanzo in a pre-draft press conference, that's a little bit cynical, but I still think it's a little bit smart too. Because when they do draft a guy who projects to be Anthony Costanzo's replacement, that is going to be the narrative that's advanced by the media, and trying to control it on the front end, I just think is good policy and pretty damn smart.
Oh, you're going out on a limb there, Ganilrez. You know what? I like a defensive tackle. I don't know which one they're going to take. But I'm telling you that don't be surprised if they take an offensive lineman. And don't be surprised if they dip down into the defensive back area. Then take one of or they could take a wide receiver. I'm hedging my bets all over the place. I'm betting the pass line and the come line. Every single row. At any rate, number 2, is Paul George ever going to win an NBA championship? You don't like him, do you, Ganilrez?
Here's how Paul George is going to win an NBA championship. Late in his career, he's going to sign with a front runner. He's going to kind of pull that David West thing, where David West went to the Warriors. He got his championship ring or 2. And I think that that's what Paul George is going to do, just so he doesn't go down in history as one of the best players in the NBA to not win an NBA championship. But you have to look at the way his career has kind of ebbed since his broken leg, and since he decided, hey, you know what? I'm not really a player. I'm a brand. And that brand stuff has worked wonders for his bank account. It has not worked wonders for him as a basketball player. And so Paul George becoming PG13, do you know since he did that, he has won exactly no playoff series, not any, not with the Pacers and not with the Thunder. The Thunder are a poorly constructed team that has stars and guys that the media can point at and fans can point at and say, ooh, I like him. I like Steven Adams. I like Paul George. I like Russell Westbrook. Look at all the triple doubles. Russell Westbrook's amazing. But you know what they don't do? They don't win 50 games during the regular season, and because they don't win 50 games during the regular season, they don't have home court advantage during the playoffs, and because they don't have home court advantage during the playoffs, they don't win playoff series. Not that that was the lone reason that they didn't beat the Portland Trail Blazers. You know, the Blazers, they had home court, but they didn't need home court. They beat the Thunder in 5. That is a poorly constructed team. You look at Paul George's line last night, right? And you see 36 points, and you see all this other stuff, and you're like, wow, he really played his ass off. But you know what you don't see? In the fourth quarter, he scored 5 points. He missed 3 of 4 foul shots, and he committed 2 turnovers. When it came to winning time, Paul George couldn't get it done. That's one of the problems with Paul George. He cannot close games effectively, and I think that's particularly true with the Oklahoma City Thunder.
Oh, boy, all right. Hey, you know, I think I underestimated your dislike for one Paul George. Hey, number 3, should Addison Russell ever play again for the Chicago Cubs?
I'll tell you what, that's entirely up to the Cubs, but I'll tell you what is up to me, and that's what I spend my money on and what I support financially. And I'm not going to support the Chicago Cubs financially as an organization as long as Addison Russell is an employee of the Chicago Cubs. All right? Domestic violence is horrible. It's one of the great poxes on our society. It happens way too often, and the consequence cannot be severe enough for those who engage in domestic violence. So if I'm running the Cubs, if I'm Tom Ricketts, done. We're done with Addison Russell. I don't care what he is as an asset from a baseball perspective. He, as a human being, has disqualified himself from being employed by my organization. That's the stance I would take if I were Tom Ricketts. Being a fan of the Chicago Cubs, all I can do is withhold my money and not go to Wrigley Field for as long as the Chicago Cubs employ Addy Russell. Let's take domestic violence out of it and talk about the productivity of the baseball player for a minute. In 4 seasons, Russell has never hit better than .250. He did have a really nice 2016 where he hit 21 bombs and drove in 95 runs. But he has since receded to the mean, and I don't think that Addison Russell is an all-star level shortstop. I do think from a defensive standpoint, he is a really good shortstop. Really good. Maybe a Gold Glove level shortstop. But I think Javi Baez is better defensively as a shortstop, and I know he's better offensively as a shortstop. By the way, did you see what he did yesterday? Deacon David Freese on his way to first. It was ridiculous. David Freese looked ashamed. Anyway, back to Russell. Is he going to move to second? What kind of a second baseman is the guy going to be? If he's a good second baseman, he's a good second baseman. From a baseball perspective, I'm not sure he's a guy that you playing at like, okay, this is his average level of productivity that you can win a championship with playing shortstop. So from a practical standpoint, I think if you can get just anything for him, get prospects for him, that it's a good deal. But this domestic violence business, I think, is unforgivable. And as a result of that, I will not be at Wrigley Field moving forward until he's gone from it. And that's all I can do, but it's what I'm willing to do. That's a very special place to me and to my family. And so not going to Wrigley Field, I was a season ticket holder from 2015 to 2017. I spent a lot of money on tickets to go to Cubs games. All right. And so going there with my dad to my first game, I still know the ramp up, the stairway up. And I remember seeing that scoreboard for the first time and how beautiful that place was, how green that place was, greenest place I've ever seen in my life. So going there with my son, going there with my wife, going there with other members of my family, going there with friends, it's a really, really important place to me. But I'll forego that, because I'm not going to support an organization that supports a domestic violence offender. It's just that simple.
I think you don't like Addison Russell every bit as much as you don't like Paul George, for wildly different reasons, though. Okay, number 4 is spending public money on a stadium for the Indy 11 wives.
Back in the early 80s, the city of Indianapolis, the state of Indiana, got together, and they said, let's build a football stadium, a multi-purpose stadium in downtown Indianapolis. We'll call it the Hoosier Dome, and hopefully if we build it, we'll get a team to move its franchise to this place, or we'll get an expansion franchise. So they built the Hoosier Dome. They got that done. And very shortly thereafter, Bob Irsay, the owner then of the Baltimore Colts, decided, you know what, let's load up some Mayflower trucks and let's head to Indianapolis. And Indianapolis has been at the forefront of investing on the front end in infrastructure to support franchises, sports franchises, and it's really built itself, that downtown, around sports. That's what it is. And so building a soccer stadium, all right, as part of an overall real estate development, I think is really, really smart. Soccer, I tweeted about this yesterday, and I got a response from a guy who said, soccer is the sport of the future, and it always will be. And I get it, but I really think that the switch is kind of flipped. And you saw it on opening night. The Indy 11 has played one home soccer game this season at Lucas Oil Stadium, and they set their all-time attendance record at over 22,000 people. Soccer is growing and growing and growing, and if you don't believe me, go to one of the bars that plays soccer, where you've got, Bundesliga or Premier League games on early on a Saturday, early on a Sunday, and go see how many people are sitting there watching those games and drinking beer. There are a lot of them. There are a lot of soccer fans, and as professional football continues to kind of wane in popularity and ratings decrease ever so slowly and physical attendance decreases ever so slowly, you know who's picking up the slack? You know who's gaining there? It's soccer. There are health issues with professional football that just don't exist with men's soccer. And so professional soccer, I think over the course of the next generation, maybe 2, is going to become huge. And being a team in Major League Soccer, the MLS, is going to be a very, very big deal for those cities who are able to gain expansion franchises. And I think this stadium being built is going to give the city of Indianapolis a leg up toward an MLS franchise. That is going to be a big deal. It's going to be, I think, every bit the big deal of what we experienced in the early 80s and in 1984 when the Colts moved from Baltimore to Indianapolis. This is a game changer, and it's really, really smart that the state of Indiana, the city of Indianapolis, the people of Indiana are embracing this. It shows foresight that just doesn't exist in a whole lot of other cities, and it's that foresight and it's that sense of friendliness and that welcoming nature of people in Indianapolis that really defines this city and this state.
I like it, just like Field of Dreams. If you build it, they will come. Let's get Kevin Costner to throw over with a golden shovel, the first shovel full of dirt. All right. Hey, number 5. Does anyone care about the Indianapolis 500 anymore?
Where the hell are you from, Harry? For God's sake. You're not from Indianapolis, because if you were from Indianapolis, you would know how much people care about the Indianapolis 500, and you would know that on that Sunday, prior to Memorial Day, you've got about 300,000 people out at the corner of 16th and Georgetown for the biggest single-day sporting event in the world. That's what the Indianapolis 500 is. If you wonder whether people care about the Indy 500, just go to it and look around and see the vastness of that property and the enormous, just the volume of humanity that packs itself into the stands and into the infield. It is completely stunning. And if you did that, you would know that it's still relevant and that people still care about it. Do they care about the testing at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway on April 24th, 2019? No. Not very many people do. Do they care about practice? No, not very many people do. Do they care about qualifications? Not so much. But I'm telling you, on Carb Day, on Legends Day, and on Race Day, that area of Speedway, Indiana is absolutely packed with people who are looking forward to a great weekend of speed and the pageantry of an event that is absolutely stunning and beyond the scope of any that's available anywhere else in the world for any other event. The Indianapolis 500, it's not the birthplace of speed anymore. They're not setting track records anymore. The drivers are not as well known as A.J. Foyt and Al Unser and Bobby Unser and Mario Andretti and Johnny Rutherford and Gordon Johncock and all those names from the heyday at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. But the Indy 500, do people still care about it? You bet your ass they do. That is sports, nothing but sports for a Wednesday. You know what? You got to call Today's Dentistry, all right? We're brought to you every day by Today's Dentistry. Please give them a call, become their next new patient. Best dental office ever. So go ahead and do that. It's going to be good for your overall health. Did you know that your dental health and your cardiac health are inexorably linked? If you got bad teeth, you're going to have a bad heart. Book it. You don't need to have bad teeth. Call my guy, Dr. Mike O'Neill. He's going to hook you up. He's going to make your dental work much more healthy, much more beautiful. 317-849-2933. Tomorrow, Breakfast with Kent, 8 o'clock on Facebook Live, about 8:10 on Periscope. Breakfast with Kent and Sports Nothing But Sports available always on SoundCloud, on iTunes, and on thegruelingtruth.net. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Draft day for the NFL. I cannot wait.